What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, it's my final team selection video of the season, of course, for Game Week 38. So I'm going to show you how the team is shaping up, my thoughts on how to use my 2 free transfers and which differentials I'm likely to go for, and a quick look at how I did in Game Week 37. So if you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a like, hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already, and let's get into it. All right, let's start with Game Week 37, the last double game week of this season, plus my bench boost was active. And I'm not quite sure how I feel about the week. Like, I got 133 points, which was decent. My bench boost was good too. I'll come on to the players in a minute. And it was a green arrow. I went from like 46k to 41k. So I can't have too many complaints. But I don't know, like is typical with FPL half the time, it just still doesn't feel like enough. There's still a few swings in there that could have given me a few points had I just gone a slightly different way with my transfers and stuff like that. Even Gusto last night was a little bit frustrating because quite a few people have held on to him. His ownership is still high enough where it matters if you don't own him. And he goes and gets a 13-pointer in the double game week. And obviously he was injured when a lot of us wildcarded in Game Week 35. And this is his first start for a few weeks now. And the goalkeeper I go for instead from Chelsea, Petrovic, just gets 3 points. So that's kind of like a little bit of a frustration. And then the Ederson-Vardiol swing is even worse. And it's not just this week, it's previous weeks as well. And to be fair, there's a lot of discourse around Ederson about him as a pick. But he's the only only double game week goalkeeper to even get 1 clean sheet, let alone 2. So 13 points actually wasn't that bad. But what does Vardiol do? He goes and gets a 27-pointer. And you're suddenly 14 points down. And last week, for my transfers in 37, I could have done that double move of Ederson and Saliba to Vicario and Vardiol and been much more up on points by keeping Bruno Fernandes rather than doing the move I did, which was Fernandes to Johnson. And Brennan Johnson did score a couple more points, but it was only 7. So overall, that just wasn't a very nice swing. And I fully get it right. Vardiol was the better pick, but I just don't know if it was a 14-point swing better pick. And that's why I just don't really know how to kind of feel about the game week. Like, it's good. I got a green arrow. I'm inside the top 50k. That is not bad by any means, but it could have just been so much better. And I think the fact that I was 25k, like, 6-7 game weeks ago, and I've not been able to get back up to that point, it just feels like the season's coming to a bit of a, I don't know, disappointing end. And I think that happens in FPL, right? Had I been 200k 6 or 7 weeks ago, and I got up to 41k, I'd be loving it. But because I've been higher, it doesn't feel quite as good. And I think you often, re-establish what your overall rank goals are as you go through, depending on the kind of start that you get. So I don't want to complain too much because, like I said, I'm in a good position. But it just feels like so many small decisions have ended up badly. I feel like I just haven't made a good decision over the last few weeks. I'm sure that's not the case, but that's just how it feels right now. In terms of the bench boost, I scored 36 points because I put Ederson on the bench. Even if you wanted to say that Petrovic should have been the goalkeeper on there, it was still 26 points. So pretty decent. Saliba 9, Gabriel 7, Johnson 7 as well. And then Ederson 13 or Petrovic 3 points. The most disappointing players this week are Isak. Although his ownership is so high, the points wouldn't have really mattered if he'd returned. But 2 blanks, not great against Brighton at home and Man United away. I do wonder whether he's still carrying a little bit of an injury, maybe, because he did come off in the 67th minute against Brighton when the game was obviously not won at all. And I don't think they would have done that because he played a lot of 90 minutes before that. So I just wonder if he's carrying something. But then he played 90 last night, so maybe that's not the case at all. And Son, 4 points. I mean, talking about swings, right, while I'm just on a bit of a moan, that chance that Son had against Man City, if you pick any player in the Premier League to take that chance, there's not many you would pick ahead of Son. It almost felt like his kind of finish where he's through on goal. It was Brennan Johnson that got the assist as well, so that would have been extra points for him. It would have been a goal for Son, and at that point, Ederson was off the pitch, so he would have wiped the Man City clean sheet as well. And obviously, there would have been a lot of luck for me involved if he'd scored that. But again, it's just one of those swings where he misses, and there's no extra points. Son, super frustrating this game week, considering he had Burnley at home and that great chance against Man City. Elsewhere, Porro 10, really nice. Dan Burn and Dallo only 3 each, not great whatsoever. Palmer returned as he always does, 14 points. Foden, 11, pretty decent. I think De Bruyne did outscore him. I need to double check that, but I don't think it was by a huge amount. Actually, he didn't. He got, oh yeah, sorry, he did. He outscored him by 1 point. De Bruyne got 12, Foden got 11. Not really worried about that given the price difference. And obviously Ederson got 13 as well. So, you know, I don't think it was a bad choice not to go for De Bruyne. Gordon picked up a goal last night, so he got 8, and Haaland captain, of course, like a lot of people, 30 points. So it was a good week, right? I wanna just say that. But I feel like in FPL, we always do this. We always feel like, what if? You know, what if I'd made that slightly different decision? But I guess, you know, if we could all play with hindsight, we'd be winning this game, and that's not the case. So overall, a pretty good season so far. Let's see how we can finish in Game Week 38. So going into the final week, I've got 2 free transfers and 3.9 million in the bank. And obviously, there's no future planning needed at this point. We're only worried about Game Week 38 only. And like a lot of people that were planning for the doubles in 37, my team's actually pretty well set. Most of our squads are going to be filled with Man City, Chelsea, Spurs, and Arsenal players, and I guess a few Newcastle too. And most of them have got pretty good fixtures this week and are pretty unlikely to be rotated either. So the team looks good, and I've got 2 free transfers to kind of do something a little bit different if I wanted to. In goal, I was planning to play Ederson, but I think it's quite unlikely he's going to start that match against West Ham. He did have to come off against Spurs. They didn't use a concussion sub, but it didn't look great. So hopefully he's fine, but I don't see him playing in that final game against West Ham. Now, I've got Petrovic on the bench with Bournemouth at home, which is not a bad fixture, so I could just play him instead. And I'm pretty sure that's what I'm going to do, because making a goalkeeper transfer in the final game week of the season just doesn't sound that exciting to me. It is possible that I do make a change if we get news that Ederson's not going to play, and that would be to Ortega, because obviously he will play if Ederson's not available, and that would free up a lot of money, because Ederson I can sell for 5.5, and Ortega is 3.6, which is absolutely ridiculous. But to be honest with you, even that extra money on top of the 3.9 million doesn't really enabled me to do anything more exciting than I already can. So I suspect I'm probably just going to keep Ederson. And the worst case scenario is I play Petrovic. I really don't think that's much of an issue. In defence, it's Saliba and Gabriel double up for Arsenal, as it has been for many, many weeks now. The title is still on the line. They're the best defence in the league. It's a good fixture. Everton got nothing to play for. Of course, they can score in a game like that. But who'd want to back against that Arsenal defence right now? So there's no real issues with either of them, but it is the final week, and I've got 2 transfers. So there is a chance that I won't play Saliba, and I'll come on to that in a minute. And then I've got Pedro Porro against Sheffield United away. And Spurs give me almost zero confidence when it comes to clean sheets, but they are playing the worst team in the league, and obviously Porro can be attacking too. So again, I'm more than happy to play him if I need to. And on the bench, it's Davern, Brentford away, Dalot against Brighton away. I've got no interest in playing either of those players. I don't think they're great this week. Would I take a hit to remove them if you were in that position? Probably not. But if you don't have to play them, there's absolutely no need to do that. So one move I've considered is getting Trent in as a big differential. I don't think many people are going to buy him this week. If I just go to the defender transfers in so far, I don't think I've already looked at this this week. Trent is behind Branthwaite, Van de Ven, Gabriel, Saliba, Ben White, Porro, and Vardio in terms of transfers in. He's had 17,205. And I just think, as much as people's teams are well set up for 38, which actually means they don't need to worry about players like Trent, they just can't get to them easily, right? Without, you know, maybe hits in a lot of cases. Like, I'm in a pretty luxury position to have 2 transfers, I think. So Trent is an option. I don't even have to sell Saliba, Gabriel, or Porro. I could just sell Dalot instead, because he's 5.2, so he's not exactly cheap. So if I did that move, I'd have 0.7 million left over, and obviously I could make an attacking move as well. And in that case, I'd probably just bench Saliba and just have him as a better bench option than Dalot, essentially. I kind of want to do it because Trent is a big differential, but I've got attacking moves I could make instead. I just don't know, like, even in game week 38, where there's only 1 week left and there's a chance to do something different, I just don't know if I want to back against that Arsenal defence. They are so good. I just can't see anything but a clean sheet this week. And if I don't play both those defenders, so let's say I bench Saliba, I mean, I could bench Porro instead, that's an option, but he's so attacking, I don't really want to do that. If I bench Saliba, I'm then hoping that Arsenal lose their clean sheet. Because if you've only got one of their defenders, you actually lose out overall if they keep a clean sheet, because so many people have got the double up, either Saliba, Gabriel, White, or even Raya in a lot of teams. So I'm a little bit unsure about what to do there. I think as it stands, I'm more likely to leave the defence alone, but I am pretty keen on bringing a Liverpool player in. And if it's not Salah, it probably would be Trent next. So I'm currently playing 3-4-3 with Anthony Gordon on the bench, who's yellow flagged. I already had him benched before that flag went on. And to be honest with you, I'd be surprised if he misses out in game week 38 because he's one of those players that always seems to be fit. But he did pick up a bit of a knock last night. He did carry on playing afterwards, but maybe that's going to affect him going into game week 38. So we'll have to wait and see. But either way, I'm probably not going to play him this week. The 4 midfielders I've got, Palmer and Foden. So Palmer's got Bournemouth at home. Foden's got West Ham at home. I don't really have too much interest in selling either of those players. If I really wanted to take a risk this week, I would sell one of those players because their ownership is so high and bring in a different midfielder and just hope that they can outscore them. But I just think Chelsea are going for that top 6 spot. I think they're in control for that now as well. Bournemouth at home, such a good fixture. Palmer is ridiculously consistent. I just don't think it's worth the risk for me in the position that I'm in. And it's similar with Foden. We know he's going to start against West Ham. The title is on the line. West Ham is a poor defence. They're going to score goals, Man City. You just got to hope that Foden is involved. So, I don't know. If I was 150k trying to get into the top 100 and I didn't really have too many other positions I could take a risk in, maybe I would sell Foden and go for someone else just to kind of have that gamble on, you know, Foden blank and whoever I bring in doing well. But I'm just not in that position, so I'm just not going to take that risk, as boring as it sounds. Son, I get that people are super frustrated with him. And actually, I'm not sure. He's probably not being sold that heavily this week, but let me just double check here. He has had 36,000 transfers out. So some people have got frustrated with him. It's Sheffield United away. I just cannot sell him. Even if he'd blanked the last 10 game weeks, I would still keep him for this fixture because that is a team that's conceded 101 goals. And Spurs are not, if I just double check here, I'm doing a lot of double checking now. I don't think Spurs are guaranteed to finish 5th. Let me just have a look here. Yeah, Spurs are on 63 and Chelsea are on 60 points. And Chelsea are ahead on goal difference as well. So if Chelsea won and Spurs lost, which I know is unlikely against Sheffield United, but if that did happen, Chelsea would then finish 5th. I don't know if that makes a huge amount of difference in terms of European competitions. I'm not quite sure about that. But either way, Spurs are not going to want to finish behind Chelsea. So I don't see too much rotation. And Sheffield United have conceded 101 goals. There's no way you can sell Son, I don't think. Again, unless you want to take a bit of risk, because like Palmer and Foden, his ownership is super high. And then I've got Brennan Johnson. Part of the reason to get him last week was because obviously Bruno Fernandes was a doubt. Apparently he missed or failed a late fitness test on the Sunday. So he was close to starting the first game as well. So maybe I got away with it there. But also it was because he's got Sheffield United away on the final day of the season. And I didn't mention this when I was talking about game week 37, but Brennan Johnson should have got more points last week. I feel like I got a little bit unlucky with him. And Sheffield United away is the perfect time to kind of rectify that. His ownership is super low. He's not going to get a huge amount of transfers in this week. So he's definitely staying. He's one of the most low-owned players I've actually got in this team. And because I've sold him, he has enabled me to have not sold Johnson. Because I've brought him in last week, he's enabled me to have 3.9 million in the bank. So if I wanted to play a 3-5-2, I can sell Anthony Gordon. Let me just get rid of Trent a second. If I don't get Trent in, I can sell Anthony Gordon to anyone that's 10.1 million or below. So it basically rules out De Bruyne, but I've already got 3 Man City anyway. So it'd probably be Saka. That would be the option. If I don't go for the Trent move, I would bring Saka in instead. It could be Havertz, but I think Saka is the better option. If I do the Dalot to Trent move, let me just go back to... Sorry, let me just put Trent back in here. If I put Trent back in, I've got 6.9 million to spend on the Gordon replacement. So then it would be Elise or Eze. And I'm quite tempted by that, to be honest. Because my other option is to get Salah in, which I can do. But that only gives me one differential in game week 38, which would be Salah himself, which is a good one for what it's worth. I quite like the idea of getting in a Crystal Palace midfielder and Trent and going for 2 differentials. Maybe that's the play, because either way, I'm probably going to captain Haaland. So that's the midfield. Gordon is going to go. I'm pretty sure I'm going to play 3-5-2 this week. It just depends who I'm going to bring in for him. And then up front, I've got Nicholas Jackson against Bournemouth at home, Erling Haaland against West Ham at home, and Alexander Isak against Brentford away. And Isak is probably going to be the way that I fund a move for Salah. Even if I don't do that and I go the Trent and Crystal Palace midfielder route, I'm probably just going to bench Isak this week. I don't think he's a bad option by any means. I just think he's probably the worst option out of the attackers I'm going to have to choose from. But I'll come on to who I'm going to buy for him in a second. With Nicholas Jackson, I mean, I could sell him instead of Isak, but it wouldn't give me quite as much money, so that's part of the problem. But also, I just like Jackson against Bournemouth at home. Like Cole Palmer, he's definitely going to start. Chelsea are going to want to secure that top 6 position, maybe even push for top 5. And he's still getting chances, despite not scoring last night. He still put up 0.63 expected goals, 0.75 against Forest, 1.75 against West Ham, 0.57 against Spurs. These are really good numbers. And like I said a few weeks ago, at some point he's going to start putting them away. And to be fair to him, he blanked last night, but he got 4 goals, 1 assist in the previous 3 games. And I think at this point, I probably don't need to convince so many people on him, right? I just think he's a good option. And I think Bournemouth at home is a good fixture. He will get chances in that game. It just depends on whether he's going to put them away. And also, he's slightly lower owned than Isak, right? There's not too much in it, but Isak is, basically his points are kind of worthless. And I'm going to have a look here for forwards transfers out. I wonder if he's quite high. Yeah, Isak is the most sold forward this week. So that ownership is coming down a bit. He's had 40,000 transfers out, probably because of 2 blanks in a row. But his ownership is still going to be quite high. And usually I don't care about that stuff. It's very rare if you've watched my videos all season that I'll worry about transfers in or transfers out in terms of my decisions. But this is the last week, right? And if you want to push in terms of overall rank, then you want to know who's kind of the lowest owned players you can bring in without being like super detrimental to your squad. I don't want to bring in someone rubbish for the sake of it, but if I can bring someone in just as good who's lower owned, that's what I want to do this week. So Jackson's almost certainly going to stay, and obviously I cannot get rid of Haaland. That would just be absolute madness in my position. Like, I'm willing to take maybe some small risks. I ain't willing to get rid of Haaland, and I'm probably going to captain him as well. Like, I'm 41k. Like, what's the aim now? It's probably to beat last season's overall rank, which was 35,711th, I think. So I've got to go up about 6,000 places. I don't think I need to take the risk by not captaining Haaland, and that is where everyone's going to go, and for very good reason too. So I'm probably just going to go with him and hope that some of my other players chip in. So the ones I bring in this week with my transfers, plus Brennan Johnson, that's probably where the majority of the points are going to have to come from. Is that going to be enough? Potentially not, but I'm willing to hope that it is, and then remain in the top 50k, which I think would be a pretty, pretty solid finish. Like, if I look at my overall rank from the past kind of 3 seasons in particular, yeah, 35, just inside the top 36k last year. It was top 10k the season before, and then my best ever finish was 2020-21, which was nearly inside the top 1,000. So if I could get a top 50, I think 4 seasons in a row, that's pretty good. I'm kind of okay with that, really. I don't think I need to push it massively. So I think my main moves are either going to be, and look, by Sunday, I may have a different plan, but right now, I think it's either Dalot to Trent and Gordon to... I'd probably go Eze over Elise, but I'm not fully locked in on that. And then that will give me 0.9 million in the bank, and I'd be benching Isak. So essentially, I'd be playing Eze over Isak, which I think is fine. I think Villa at home's a pretty good fixture last day. Like, Palace are in really good form at the moment. Villa got nothing else to play for. And obviously, Trent's a big differential. I'd probably bench Saliba, but it might be Porro. So that's one option. Or I just bring in Salah for Gordon. And part of the reason to get Johnson last week was to leave this option open to me. So Salah for Gordon. And I'd sell Isak to fund that for a 4.9 million forward. So either Chris Wood or someone like Muniz, who's got Luton away. And then I would bench that forward that comes in and play 3-5-2. So either way this week, I'm pretty sure I'm playing 3-5-2. It just depends. Do I get Salah and just keep Gabriel, Saliba, Pedro Porro as my back 3? Or do I get Trent, bench one of those 3 defenders, and get Eze instead? I'm not sure where I'm leaning right now. I think because I'm almost certainly going to captain Haaland, I feel like getting Trent and Eze is the better move because it gets me 2 differentials. Whereas if I go for Salah, it's only 1. But at the same time, it is not very often in FPL that you get Salah at such low ownership, and he's not being brought in by that many people. I'm sure I'll discuss this again tomorrow. But currently, Trossard, Odegaard, Son, Foden, Havertz, and Elise have all had more transfers in than Salah. Like, Cole Palmer's nearly had as many transfers in as Salah. That's how kind of mad it is. You know, not mad, but like what we know Salah is capable of with a really good fixture last day of the season. I kind of want a piece of that. There's still a part of me that's tempted to captain him. I'm just not sure I'm willing to risk it with Haaland because he's so good. I don't know. I feel like I should go Trent and Palace, but I'm probably going to end up on Salah because I just think Porro, Saliba, Gabriel is a perfectly good defence. I'm not sure. Either way, I'm fairly certain Gordon's getting sold and Isak's getting sold or benched. Right, so it's going to be 3-5-2. I don't see me doing Edison to Ortega. It just feels too boring, even if it's the right move to make because Man City are more likely to get a clean sheet than Chelsea. I just can't do it. Like, I know I'm quite a boring player, like captaining Haaland instead of Salah, etc. But I still can't bring myself to do Edison to Ortega. Anyway, I'll leave it there. Make sure to give the video a like if you enjoyed it and followed along this season. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. Rate 5 stars if you listen on podcast. One more pre-recorded video to come, which will be tomorrow. Final thoughts after the press conferences. Deadline stream on Sunday will start at 12:30 UK time because the deadline is 2:30 PM on Sunday. And then we are done. Good luck for the final week if I don't see you before. Hopefully you'll join me for final thoughts on the deadline stream. Otherwise, I'll catch you at some point over the next few days.